There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is down 3.89% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,090, a high of 9,597, and a low of 8,926. That's $1 for 11,008 Satoshis. Volume was about normal, with 10,765 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean margin long, with 78% of the market heading that direction. Be sure to like this video so that more people can find it. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. And now, a message from Charles Bukowski. The 8 count. This one always arrives at the wrong time. A basically good sort, I suppose, an honest man, but he doesn't take the 8 count. Well, we're all beaten, but somehow it's the manner in which he takes the count. After a visit from him, I am sickened for 3 or 4 days. I give him board and shelter and sometimes money, but how he snarls and bitches, sucking at my cans of beer. If he expects deliverance in return for what he gives, he isn't going to get deliverance, because he doesn't give anything. No light, no love, no laughter, no learning, nothing to remember. The way this one sickens me, he brings me sorrow when I have sorrow. He brings me madness when I have madness. I am a selfish man. Over his last sweaty handshake, I told him I could carry him no longer. Now, when my soul has to puke, it will puke of its own volition, and not from a knock upon the door. That was from Burning in Water, Drowning in Flames, Selected Poems 1955 to 1973. I've also got a bonus reading this morning from Cormac McCarthy. Let's see, where should I start? She thought about that. I try not to think about stuff like that, she said. You think when you get to California, you'll kind of start over. Them's my intentions. I think that's the point. There's a road going to California, and there's one coming back. But the best way would be to just show up there. Show up there? Yeah. You mean and not know how you got there? Yeah. And not know how you got there. I don't know how you do that. I don't either. That's the point. She ate. She looked around. Can I get some coffee? She said. You can get anything you want. You got money. She looked at him. I guess I ain't sure what the point is, she said. The point is, there ain't no point. No, I mean what you said. About where you are, about knowing where you are. He looked at her. After a while he said, it's not about knowing where you are. It's about thinking you got there without taking anything with you. Your notion's about starting over, or anybody's. You don't start over. That's what it's about. Every step you take is forever. You can't make it go away. None of it. You understand what I'm saying? I think so. I know you don't, but let me try to explain it one more time. You think when you wake up in the morning, yesterday don't count. But yesterday is all that does count. What else is there? Your life is made out of the days it's made out of. Nothing else. You might think you could run away and change your name and I don't know what all. Start over. And then one morning you wake up and look at the ceiling and guess who's there? She nodded. You understand what I'm saying? That was from No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. Because you're so lucky you get 3 readings today, this one's from Jocko Willnick. Immediate action drills. Facing a threat. Obviously, Training is the best way to prepare to face threats. But there's a difference between a training scenario at the gym or the range and a real confrontation on the street. How can you be ready for that? And how should you react? The first thing to do is to train. Train hard. Train for worst case scenarios. Train for things to go wrong by putting yourself in horrible training situations and finding your way out of them. The next most important concept is avoidance. Yes, avoid the danger. Stay away from high threat areas. But we can't always avoid high threat areas, and sometimes the high threat area doesn't avoid us. In the world today, conflict and danger can occur anytime and anywhere. So it is important to maintain situational awareness at all times. Pay attention to your surroundings. Look at suspicious people. Look at unsuspicious people. What are they doing? Where are they going? What are they looking at? Assess. While you assess, think of contingencies. Where is your closest escape route? Where is the closest cover and concealment? Cover being a place to shield you from bullets, and concealment being a place to hide. If you are maintaining situational awareness, you should be very hard to surprise. If you sense something is going wrong, or you sense a threat, proactively move away from it. Walk to the other side of the street. Accelerate your car. Walk out the door. Don't wait for things to get worse. If you do get surprised and are caught in a bad situation, act. If you can't run away from the assailant, do it. If you can't run because they have a hold on you, attack them. Put all your training to use as quickly and as violently as possible. As soon as you can break free, do it and run. Powerful stuff there from Jocko Willink. Discipline equals freedom, a field manual. And what I like so much about what he said there is it reminded a lot of one of the basic lessons that my teacher taught me in Aikido, which is if you sense a bad feeling, listen to it. If you think that an alleyway is dangerous and dark, don't go down there. And as he's saying, a lot of the moves we do in Aikido were just to flip somebody. And once you're flipped, you're like, what just happened to me? I was going to punch some dude, and now I'm on my back. And when that happens, as the flipper, you run. You don't need to fight anymore. I mean, it's not about pounding the guy into submission. It's about flipping him once, running away. If he comes back, they catch you, flip him some more. If you have to, you can get his arm in one of those things, and you could break his arm, and that should take care of it. But yes, listen to your feelings. Avoid bad situations. And if you win at a fight or a flip or a punch or whatever, run. You don't have to finish it. All you have to do is escape. So it's good stuff. Let's see what else we've got going on today. Might just drink a little water here. Get ready for the big show. We had some good comments yesterday. People really understood the reason that I'm asking you to thumbs up the show and share the show and tweet it and comment and all these things is so that we can get more people to watch the show, so we can have a better discussion with more people. More people calling in, more people in the chat, more people in the comments. That's all it's all about. So I thank everybody for giving us the thumbs up and the share. I think we were at something about 43-5 yesterday. So there are a lot more people that like this show than don't like this show. So it's neat to see that. And now our main story today, Hong Kong. The history of Hong Kong. The region is first known to have been occupied by humans during the Neolithic period, around 6,000 years ago. Early Hong Kong settlers were a semi-coastal people who migrated inland and brought knowledge of rice cultivation. The Qin dynasty incorporated Hong Kong area into China for the first time in 214 BCE, after conquering the indigenous Baiyu. The region was consolidated under the Nanyi Kingdom, a predecessor state of Vietnam after the Qin collapse, and recaptured by China after the Han conquest. During the Mongol conquest of China in the 13th century, the southern Song court was briefly located in modern-day Kowloon City, before its final defeat in the 1279 Battle of Yamen. By the end of the Yuan dynasty, 7 large families had settled in the region and owned most of the land. Settlers from nearby provinces migrated to Kowloon through the Ming dynasty. The earliest European visitor was Portuguese explorer Jorge Alvarez, who arrived in 1513. Portuguese merchants established a trading post called Tamao in Hong Kong waters and began regular trade with southern China. Although the traders were expelled after military clashes in the 1520s, Portuguese-Chinese trade relations were re-established by 1549. Portugal acquired a permanent lease for Macau in 1557. Skipping ahead slightly, the colony was further expanded in 1898 when Britain obtained a 99-year lease of the new territories. The University of Hong Kong was established in 1911 as the territory's first institution of higher education. Kai Tak Airport began operation in 1924, and the colony avoided a prolonged economic downturn after the 1925-26 Canton-Hong Kong strike. At the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1937, Governor Geoffrey Northcote declared Hong Kong a neutral zone to safeguard its status as a free port. The colonial government prepared for a possible attack, evacuating all British women and children in 1940. The Imperial Japanese Army attacked Hong Kong on December 8, 1941, the same morning as its attack on Pearl Harbor. Hong Kong was occupied by Japan for almost 4 years before Britain regained control on August 30th, 1945. Skipping ahead a little. Let's see. Diplomatic negotiations with China resulted in the 1984 Sino-British Joint Declaration, in which the United Kingdom agreed to transfer the colony in 1997, and China would guarantee Hong Kong's economic and political systems for 50 years after the transfer. 50 years after 1997. The impending transfer triggered a wave of mass immigration as residents feared an erosion of civil rights, the rule of law, and quality of life. Over 500,000 people left the territory during peak migration period from 1987 to 1996. Hong Kong was transferred to China on July 1st, 1997, after 156 years of British rule. The price of Bitcoin is down 4.67% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,056, a high of 9,597, and a low of 8,926. That's $1 for 11,041 Satoshis. Volume is about normal, with 10,387 Bitcoins changing hands, and the market continues to lean margin long, with 78% of the market heading that direction. It is a tragedy how the media has failed to convey just how broad the consensus on this is. 83% of Americans don't agree on anything. But an AP NORC poll agrees 83% of Americans are concerned that lifting restrictions in their area will lead to additional COVID-19 infections. So the people are smart. The people get it. We're just not listening to the people. And I agree, if only the media had focused on this 83% number, but then again, some people just can't be convinced by facts and logic. Grand opening, grand closing. God damn, your man Hove crapped the cam open again. Who are you going to find doper than him with no pen? Just draw off inspiration. Soon you're going to see you can't replace him with cheap imitations for these generations. Can I get an encore? Because yes, Ford is forced to halt production at 2 plants after employees test positive for COVID-19. So much for the whole opening plan, right? It kind of seems like reopening while the virus is still out there is a bad idea. You know, just me, maybe, right? Me and 83% of America. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, shoppers gotta shop. And I'm a big Ross fan. For people that are maybe international, Ross is a discount store. Things they can't sell at Target. Clothes from the previous season. You can buy a really cheap winter coat in the summer. That kind of thing. Well, look at this incredible line right here in Las Vegas for Ross. Now, Sure, they're doing the social distancing outside. They're probably limiting the amount of people that can be in the store. Looks like they might have even had a temperature check or a hand washing station or something there at the front. But you really got to want your discount clothes if you're willing to go out in this. If you're willing to stand in this line, if you're willing to risk your life for discount shopping. So I really question a lot of these people's decision making. Another part of it is they probably have bad information. If you have bad information, it's very difficult to make a good decision. First mover. A lot of people are curious about what's going on with the Bitcoin price. Why did it drop from 9,600 to 9,000? Well, it turns out there's idiots in every sphere of life. We also have idiots in Bitcoin, and they're grand idiots. They have lots of money. So the grand idiots are afraid that these early coins, which I don't even understand, these are not Satoshi's coins. CoinDesk, you need to fix your headline. When they're Satoshi coins, they're Satoshi coins. These are not them. But yes, people think that these are the Satoshi coins, so that's why the price went down. Here's the other graph on that. Here are the early miners, right? You've got Laszlo, the blue dots, all in vain. The red dots, Dustin Trammell. Boy, he got a lot. Hal Finney, the classic man, and of course, Marty Malmy. These are both contributors to the Bitcoin project. Early contributors really helped out Satoshi when no one else would. And this block comes from there. Technically, it's been highlighted as a Hal Finney block. It's an interesting block because it was also claimed by Craig Wright during his recent trial. So Craig Wright clearly doesn't control these coins, which may be the reason they moved. Someone might have moved them just to embarrass Craig Wright. There's another theory here. Let's see if I can find it. It was nearby, but there's another thing where he moved it to a Bech32 address. So he's using SegWit. So he's obviously not Craig Wright. And they might have done that to further embarrass Craig Wright. But yes, I don't think these are Satoshi's coins. These are not officially Satoshi's coins. We know the early ones that he mined. Sure, he could have mined in a second computer or some kind of different system we don't know about. But yes, these are not Satoshi's coins. But a bunch of morons think that they are. So they're all going to freak out. What if Satoshi comes back? What if he sells all of his Bitcoin, which we know he wouldn't do. He probably didn't even save the keys. But these people don't know that. They just got here yesterday. They're really freaked out. The mystery man's moving his coins, at least according to these idiot headlines by CoinDesk. And yes, they drove the price of Bitcoin down. So it's now on sale. So you can make your own decision, not investment advice, blah, 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 blah. And maybe there's even more idiots that haven't heard about this yet who are still going to freak out because they think Satoshi's moving his coins. But we all know that he's not. Breaking news from Dallas, Houston, Southeast Florida, and Alabama. Several other places in the South that have been rapidly reopening their economies are in danger of a second wave of coronavirus infections over the next 4 weeks. That's right, they're already starting to see hotspots, or as the president would call them, little flare-ups of dead people and sickness and virus, because the virus is still out there and we need to stay inside more, and instead we're going to reopen, have a second wave, get locked down longer and harsher, and have to spend more time inside because we're impatient and we don't really understand how to kill this virus. And we think that by ignoring it, we can kill it. And we can't. At this stage, hydroxychloroquine has yet to be found effective in regards to COVID-19. In fact, authorities have warned of potential side effects, and many countries have limited its use to clinical trials. But you could just ignore that. Ethereum is married to the blockchain narrative. Ethereum proponents can't accept that the only real use case for a blockchain is money. They need to rationalize why Bitcoin is not enough. And again, this is another long bubble that we're waiting to pop. But yes, eventually it will all roll back, as it's already rolled back once with the Bitcoin dominance index. But yes, slow and steady wins the day. Little Ethereum and their little rabbit running ahead, falling behind, losing the DAO money, doing version 2.0, never doing staking, promising it all the time. They're just not as good as the turtle. The British pound is the oldest fiat currency in existence at 317 years. The pound was originally defined as 12 ounces of silver. It's now worth less than 0.5% of its original value. In other words, the most successful long-standing currency in existence has lost 99.5% of its value.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
So if you think that your people are being robbed, if you think that your family hasn't developed any generational wealth in the last 317 years, maybe it's because your currency and everything priced in your currency, like real estate and everything, has lost 99.5% of its value. Maybe you should have held silver or Bitcoin, digital gold. And shout out to Alex Hofford. He wrote this, but I thought it too. Hong Kong is done. And that's why we started off this morning with a little history of Hong Kong to remember perhaps the better times, and just remember that it's always been a region in flux, right? It's an island nation near a very large power in China. A lot of people wanted to trade with China. A lot of people saw Hong Kong as their way in. But just yesterday, Beijing will introduce a draft resolution to allow NPC to chart legislation for a new national security law tailor-made for Hong Kong, which will proscribe subjective activity, foreign interference, and terrorism in the city. Remember, China had promised to leave Hong Kong alone for 50 years. Many people did migrate away from Hong Kong during the 1986 to 1996 period of immigration and migration, but those who stayed with the idea that Hong Kong would be independent for another 50 years. Well, it looks like China has changed their mind. Breaking news, Chinese government authorities have confirmed in a press conference in Beijing they will discuss railroading through an Article 23-like proposal for national security legislation in Hong Kong, confirming many pro-democracy activists' worst fears. Here's what it'll mean. Just a little recap. Article 23 was what started the Umbrella Revolution in 2014. We covered the Umbrella Revolution live right here on the World Crypto Network. You can go look at the old videos. We have a great playlist of our Occupy Hong Kong videos. James Bang, a volunteer reporter, was on the streets of Hong Kong sending us live videos from the protests. There was a second round of protests just about a year ago, and this was all about Article 23. Article 23 would allow China to extradite prisoners from Hong Kong without any interference by the Hong Kong court system. So if you're arrested for being a pro-democracy activist in Hong Kong, you could end up in a Chinese prison. This is pretty much the end of freedom in Hong Kong, the end of even politely asking for their freedom. And these people were the most polite and gentle protesters I've ever seen. Certainly there's been outliers, but in general, when I watched the videos and when I communicated with James in Hong Kong, there'd be things like a bottle would break on the street. And the Hong Kong protesters, not the police, not the construction workers or the city workers or anything like that, the Hong Kong protesters would come out with a broom and a dustpan and a trash can, and they would pick up the bottle and they would get rid of the glass because they don't want to hurt anyone. The streets were left clean after these protests. The Hong Kong protesters respected their city. It was really impressive. I thought that maybe in another world, the government would see that and want to work with them and want to have a deal. But we've seen the way that China deals with pretty much everything, and they just kind of run right through. So are you going to build island military bases in the Pacific? Everyone would prefer if you didn't do that, but they just run right through. They've got lots of military bases now. So during the press conference, the spokesperson said only that it is 1 out of 9 items the NPC will discuss. But it's a foregone conclusion now. It's on the agenda for China's rubber stamp parliament, the talking shop for the Politburo SC. It's happening. The legislation will need to be studied in detail before we can say for certain what it'll mean. However, like provisions contained within Article 23, notions of sedition, etc., will be internationally vague, so new laws and judicial interpretation can shift over time as Beijing pleases. The effects in Hong Kong itself, the protests will obviously escalate big time. If there was any way to add fuel to the fire, this was it. The obvious comparison is in 2003, when the government proposed Article 23. They were forced into dropping the plans. This time, things have changed. I really cannot stress how much of a cataclysmically bad tactical fuck-up this could turn out to be from Beijing. However, it has to be said, if there was ever a time to do it, doing it in the middle of an international pandemic is smart. Coming up next, the LegCo elections this summer. The lack of disqualifications ahead of the D.C. elections and the most recent court ruling just today throwing out a previous DQ would suggest mass DQs are unlikely. But this announcement throws all into question. And remember, just the other day, we showed video of this, Hong Kong legislators being pulled out of Parliament. After they were pulled out of Parliament, they then had a vote, which naturally the pro-Chinese government faction won. So you can have a democracy, but if you allow people to be physically removed, then allow a vote to happen, it's not really much as a democracy. They wonder if perhaps the UK will reach out and help their former citizens. Seems unlikely. Note on implementation, LegCo, the Hong Kong legislator, cannot be bypassed completely, but the government has the votes to be certain of the legislation package. So make no mistake, this is a huge doubling down by Beijing. We can only wait to see what the immediate response in Hong Kong is from pro-democracy activists, but I'm inclined towards Michael Wolff's book title and Trump quote, "Fire and Fury, like the world has never seen." Shout out to Tom Grundy. He also saw this coming, saying sometime tonight, they expect the national security legislation for Hong Kong. 500,000 people protested against such laws in 2003, and it seems they will be enacted by the back door. Direct insertion into the mini-constitution's Annex 3. Hong Kong is done. Meanwhile, Trump's going to visit a Ford plant in Michigan. There's an awesome article written here that says Trump has the legal and moral responsibility to wear a mask on the Ford plant tour. Certainly these workers are there trying to assemble cars, trying to save the economy, which he claims to prize so much. But he's not going to wear a mask. He's told everyone he's not going to wear a mask. Ford, which initially was considering blocking the president, who would be essentially potentially spreading disease by not wearing a mask, from entering their factory, but they've caved and pulled back. Many are already calling for a boycott of Ford cars. Not that anyone I know has any plans of buying anything. The idea that the consumer economy still exists after this is a really funny joke. We also have another reason why perhaps the cowardly president refuses to wear a mask. According to internal sources, Trump reportedly fears that wearing a mask would make him look ridiculous. So it's the optics. It's his feelings. He doesn't want people to see the president with a mask. Well, then you can't tour the factory then, right? Logic would say if you don't want to wear a mask, stay home, right? I'm not wearing a mask right now. I stayed home. I'm not touring factories in other states, exposing people potentially to a disease that I could have. Something about that just seems responsible and logical to me. Maybe he's not responsible. Maybe he's not logical. The supposed culture war over masks is largely being waged by a tiny faction of conservative commentators, a self-selecting group of the very most selfish, insecure, pathetic human beings in the country. Nearly 70% of Americans say wearing a mask near others is respectful. Just 8% see it as a sign of weakness. So once again, the cowardly president is on the wrong side of not even a majority of Americans, a supermajority of Americans. 70%, 83% don't want to reopen. 73% think wearing a mask is a sign of respect. I respect you. I don't want to get you sick. Even if I'm not sick. Show respect. Don't be a part of this 8% that sees it as weakness. Spreading disease is the real weakness. In Asia, they all wore masks immediately when this started. They didn't have this macho, selfish culture that we have. They stopped the virus. They reopened their economy. The only way we're going to win is if we stop the virus. And the virus has already spread too much, right? The way to stop it now is the same as the way to stop it in the beginning. Separation, wear masks, hope for a vaccine. That's it. The best epidemiological model to date has been by Yuan Yonggu, a scientist from China. Today, it projects a medium outcome of 190,000 American deaths by August 4th. The high end ranges to 320,000, and the low end bottoms out at around 120,000. So far, we're at about 95,000 American dead. More than the Vietnam War. We've got some good news. Wuhan bans eating wild animals as the virus drives a crackdown in China. And Wuhan, which was the center of the original outbreak, did reopen their economy as everyone wanted, and now they're back on lockdown because they opened their economy too fast, even for Wuhan. They are trying to improve it by buying out exotic animal breeders to curb the illegal wildlife trade. If only they had done this last time with bird flu or swine flu or any of the other ones, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation we are today. But this is good news towards preventing future viruses, as it's less likely for these viruses to transfer over from animals to humans if we don't randomly eat them and store them together in one big wet market. Wet market, just a great name. Don't you want to shop there? Wet market. Sounds like a market covered with blood and feces. Oh, wait. Too true. Exclusive. U.S. has 3 months to rebuild medical supplies stockpile. Obama administration scientists warn. How much you want to bet we don't bother doing it? How much you want to bet we just assume everything's fine? We don't need to overproduce. We don't need more PPE and ventilators. Everything's going to be fine. And then in 3 months, we'll check back and see how that goes. Yeah, nice. At least 4 states combined numbers from 2 tests, possibly providing a misleading picture of coronavirus spread. And I'm always surprised by people that try to cheat with evidence. You're going to get found out, right? The people in Florida who fired that lady who was running their information dashboard, we know who you are. We know what you did, and we're going to come for you later. The people in Georgia who put the dates out of order on the chart, we know who you are. We know what you did. We're going to come for you later. And now 4 other states are combining numbers from 2 tests to provide a misleading picture of the spread. You can't fight data. You can't fight truth. We're going to have trials on this. We're going to find out who you are. Don't mess with the data. We're coming for you. Up to 38.6 million jobs lost, and that's an undercount. And many of these jobs are gone for good. It's really too bad we can't just make Andrew Yang president right now. Adopting basic income for the United States would reduce a lot of people's fears and allow everyone to pay their rent, which would then allow the landlords to pay for their mortgages, would allow the mortgage companies to put that money in the bank and then lend it back out. It would actually be an economic engine if you gave money to the people. And it would reduce their stress, reduce the possibility of catastrophic riots, destruction of property, destruction of manufacturing, pretty much everything that Vonnegut wrote about in Cat's Cradle. I guess it's around 60 years ago now, but you had plenty of time to read that. Cool side note, Electronic Arts is releasing the source code to Command and Conquer and Red Alert as open source under the GPL. This is very cool. I used to play these games a lot back in the old days. It's pretty amazing. People it's open source now. You could go in and make new levels or make a new game or something like that. These are really classic games. So it's very cool. I never expected a big company like EA to open source them. The previous strategy for old software was to let it die. So it's much better to give it some new life by open sourcing, or like the Internet Archive's been doing, making these old games playable online. It's much better than just seeing them disappear and become abandonware, which is the saddest of all softwares. We've got a book recommendation from yesterday's Thomas Hunt show. Hey, that's this show. Time's Arrow by Martin Amiss. It's especially relevant with the strange discovery of the parallel universe where time is going backwards. And it's kind of a literary book. It's not a easy book or whatever, but it's great. You should check out Time's Arrow. It's a story about a man who's living his life backwards. And that's backwards on everything. When he goes to the restroom, the stuff goes back inside him. And then when it's time to eat, he takes the stuff out of his mouth and rearranges it into beautiful food. So it's very backwards. And it has a strong moral and a message in there too that I don't want to talk about because I want you to be surprised if you want to read it. But check out Time's Arrow by Martin Amiss. Shout out to the NIM CEO. We had a cool interview with Harry Halpin at the HCPP 2019 convention. We're still slowly releasing the videos from there. There's going to be a couple each week until we run out. So check it out. Nagato says, guys, watch this interview of NIM CEO by Mad Bitcoins. Really interesting and informative. So very cool. Check that out right here on the World Crypto Network. Also really nice of this guy to make a tweet and to retweet and recommend it, helping me out with all these hashtags and that kind of thing. It's very cool. We have a lot of great videos on the World Crypto Network for you to discover and explore, but we don't have a lot of advertising or anything like that. So if you want to find something great, you got to look into the archives. And if you do find something great, timestamp it, share the link, tell other people. We've got a lot of cool videos waiting to be discovered. Shout out to Vesa. As it says here, the artist, Vesa, really deserves more publicity. His works are amazing, and the amount of detail in the symbolism is beyond this dimension. So very cool. Shout out to Vesa, a friend of the show. He was on our Halvening special. We hung out a little bit at CoinFest last year. Very cool guy and very cool art. So check him out on Twitter at artbyvesa, Vesa. Also, very cool news from the Internet Archive. Rick Prelinger, who's made these incredible home movies back in the day. He was kind of like a filmmaker before we had the kind of filmmakers that we had, before High 8, before Super 8, before even VHS. He was a filmmaker back on film. He has some fantastic films I've seen of like Disneyland in the 1950s. There's even a shot there where you can see Steve Martin as a kid selling newspapers on Main Street. And right here we have fantastic new news from Mr. Prelinger. Over 400 new home movies, 1920s to 1970s, from Prelinger archives are percolating into the Internet Archive. Hope you enjoy them as much as we have. Thanks to Megan Prelinger for vetting and AV Geeks for the upload. So it's very cool to see this kind of new information being added to the Internet Archive. They're doing all kinds of new things these days. It's not just the Wayback Machine where you could put in a URL and maybe see an old version of my webpage, something like that. It's much more. They've got the video games, they've got the records, they've got the music, they've got the books. And then they even have a way somehow you can add your photos to their collection and you can upload things. I still have to figure that out, but good stuff from the Internet Archive. The Mall of America in Minnesota, a 2 million square foot complex complete with indoor theme park, 500 stores, valued at $2 billion in 2014, is delinquent on its $1.4 billion mortgage, a sign of a threat to the $500 billion market for commercial mortgage-backed securities. And yes, it's certainly a big deal for the Mall of America to miss their payment. They obviously had to close all their shops and close the mall during the pandemic, and likely will consider more problems during the second lockout and the second wave. But it's not just about commercial spaces like malls and shopping areas. It's also going to be offices and office real estate that's hit by this crisis. And remember, it's just going to cascade. At first, it'll be the shopping malls, then it'll be the offices, then it'll be the homes. And then we'll be sitting there saying, what's happened to us? How did things get so bad? And it's because the consumer economy is shifting. No one's going to want to go out and buy anything when buying something could lead to death. It's just not going to happen. We have to kill the virus, bring the economy back. And we can try it this other way, and we can fail, and we can waste a bunch of times and waste a bunch of lives. And, we can just watch it in slow motion and horror as we sadly are right. And I'd love it if we're not right. I'd love it if it comes back and there's not a second wave and the virus that spreads better than any virus in history suddenly stops spreading just because we stopped thinking about it, or we got tired of thinking about it, or you really needed a haircut. That's not going to happen, though. I'm not even going to read you guys the article about the end of meat is here. That'll really piss you off. But yeah, it doesn't look so good for meat production. Also, it's environmentally unfriendly to have that many cows. But this is not a great time to bring that up, right? We'll worry about that when we cross that bridge, right? Breaking news, state officials knew February 18th more than 500 people in Florida may have been exposed to COVID-19. Confidential memos show data the state refused to release, even to local hospitals and state senators. Governor of Florida, we're going to come get you. The documents are going to be there. We're going to get your text messages. We're going to get your emails. We're going to find out everything that you thought about behind the scenes while you were letting your people die. And then we're going to hold you accountable for it, just like they did at Nuremberg. So get ready. And once again, this is why you do the right thing. This is why you don't cover up evidence. Certainly, if you're wrong, admit that you're wrong. Don't cover it up. Don't make it worse. Don't lie to people. These are common sense things I learned in kindergarten things, but no one ever listens to them. They always think they can get a fast way, get the way around it. But again, time just moves on. Documents pile up. Lawyers have lots of time to read them. And we're going to find these people out. We're going to find them out. Sadly, we're not going to be able to prevent a lot of the damage that this is going to cause, both human and economic. But in the end, history will triumph, and we will find out what these people did. We're finding out already, huh? And it's not even over yet. I'd be worried if I was them, if I'd been out there lying. The more we learn, the clearer it is that we are still living in a valley of pandemic ignorance. We are suffering and dying at historic rates, but the laws governing the ebb and flow of the virus remain maddeningly inscrutable. So once again, the truth is knowing that we know nothing. So if you have any certainty, please abandon your certainty. Just learn more. Listens to the scientists. There's a reason they went to school. I didn't go to school to become a doctor. So when I go to a doctor, I trust him because he went to school to be a doctor. It's up to you. You can completely deny that, but then when you have no evidence for it and you get sick and die, wonder why it is. Maybe because you don't believe in science? Morning in America. This is pretty great.
More than 60,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored. With the economy in shambles, more than 26 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. Trump bailed out Wall Street, but not Main Street. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment. And with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America, and under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
Paid for by the Lincoln Project, which is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Powerful stuff. Nearly half of the Twitter accounts spreading messages on the social media platform about the coronavirus pandemic are likely bots, according to researchers at Carnegie Mellon University. That's interesting. You mean other countries could try to influence America so that we would be stupider and get sicker and ruin our economy more by not fighting the virus? Other countries could be trying to separate the people into two groups, one group that doesn't believe in science and one group that does. I wonder what country that could be, and I wonder why so many people are falling for it. Just a friendly reminder that the president's attempted extortion of states was anticipated. In fact, it was a hypothetical designed to show you how absurd that would be. The absurd has sadly become reality. And for those of you who didn't watch the impeachment hearings in full, here's a short clip from Pamela Karlan, a professor who volunteered and spoke at the hearings.
Declared the right to vote in a free American election is the most powerful and precious right in the world. But our elections become less free when they are distorted by foreign interference. What happened in 2016 was bad enough. There is widespread agreement that Russian operatives intervened to manipulate our political process. But that distortion is magnified if a sitting president abuses the powers of his office actually to invite foreign intervention. To see why, imagine living in a part of Louisiana or Texas that's prone to devastating hurricanes and flooding. What would you think if you lived there and your governor asked for a meeting with the president to discuss getting disaster aid that Congress has provided for? What would you think if that president said, I would like you to do us a favor. I'll meet with you, and I'll send the disaster relief once you brand my opponent a criminal? Wouldn't you know in your gut that such a president had abused his office, that he'd betrayed the national interest, and that he was trying to corrupt the electoral process? I believe that the evidentiary record shows wrongful acts on that scale here. It shows a president who delayed meeting a foreign leader and providing assistance that Congress and his own advisors agreed serves our national interest in promoting democracy and in limiting Russian aggression. Saying, Russia, if you're listening, you know, a president who cared about the Constitution would say, Russia, if you're listening, butt out of our elections. And it shows a president who did this to strong-arm a foreign leader into smearing one of the president's opponents in our ongoing election season. That's not politics as usual, at least not in the United States or not in any mature democracy. It is instead a cardinal reason why the Constitution contains an impeachment power. Put simply, a president should resist foreign interference in our elections, not demand it and not welcome it. If we are to keep faith with our Constitution and with our republic, President Trump must be held to account. Thank you.
And we've already seen this happen. There was the incident a few weeks ago where he said to the vice president, don't talk to that woman in Michigan, that woman being the governor of Michigan who needed help during the coronavirus crisis. We're having it happen again where Michigan just had 2 dams collapse yesterday and she had to beg the president for his assistance. Don't talk to that woman in Michigan. We've seen him threaten to withhold electoral funds and funds from Nevada and Michigan because they both sent out absentee ballots. He's attempting to control the way that people vote. And this literal situation that she described December 4th, 2019 has now come true. The president will not give disaster assistance unless you treat him nicely. As he said over and over again, they have to ask me nicely. They have to say it in a nice way. It's not, I can't just give them, this aid. They have to be my friends. So it's pretty bad out there, and it's getting worse. Sometimes I think about how different 2020 might look if Exxon had heeded the information of its own climate scientists were producing in the 1970s and overhauled its business to nuclear and renewable energy in the 1980s. It really would be a different world. And I remember, just like the cigarette companies, the oil companies knew what they were doing. Once again, we have the documents. We always find out later. Whatever kind of wrongdoing you think you're getting away with now, We're going to find out later. Doesn't matter what it is. If it was really big and really broad, you probably had to make a lot of memos. You probably had to make a lot of documents to get it done. And when they covered up their climate information, just like the cigarettes companies both covered up that tobacco would kill you, and they covered up their nicotine fixing project during the 1980s and 90s, we're going to find out. There was a whistleblower then, the movie called The Insider with Russell Crowe, great movie, and there'll be a whistleblower now. Trump keeps getting taken down by whistleblowers, people with evidence inside the system who won't do the corrupt things that you want to do. It's not enough of them, but we get you eventually. Breaking news, we've lost 90,000 lives to Trump's incompetence. The people who are dead can't vote. Will you?
Case in the United States.
Here he is on February 2nd.
How concerned are you?
Doesn't care at all. Golfing, February.
My father was one of the boys. He loved to have a good time. He loved to laugh. We were very close. In February, he fell and he broke his hip. They sent him to a rehab that was a / nursing home. I went to go visit him and we weren't allowed in. We were then told that my father had had a fever for 5 days.
By April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away.
There were tests, but by the time they reached my father, they had run out.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
We had a nurse put my dad on the phone, and he would tell us he wanted to go home. And that's the last time that I spoke to my dad. The nurse told my brother that my father had passed. He had just turned 78 2 days before he passed.
Coronavirus. This is their new hoax.
In November, we are literally voting for our lives.
Powerful, powerful political advertisement. And just the footage of him golfing in February, going to the NASCAR event, having big fancy dinners at Mar-a-Lago. They did nothing. They did nothing. We're going to find out about it. We already know the days are missing, and it's only a time before we find out more. We're going to get their emails. We're going to get their text messages. We're going to get their internal memos. Everything they ever wrote down on this, we're going to find out. It's a mistake. It was a mistake. Got some positive news. You could check out Insight Timer. It's really neat. You can connect it to Apple Health to log your meditation time. So if you're looking to find a nice meditation app, it's got a good timer. It's also got a lot of guided meditation that could help you sleep and so on and so forth. Don't take hydroxychloroquine. Trump fans are gobbling up hydroxychloroquine and even trying to make the drug themselves with homemade recipes. One Trump fan claims the drug has made his face plush and vibrant. Again, they're manufacturing their own medicines. Like, they're essentially going to be poisoning themselves. So this is very sad. Don't do this. Don't listen to this. And again, everyone's like, oh, they won't do that. They're not that stupid. No one's that stupid. You got the whole world saying, don't take it. Let us test it. Let us see what's going on. Certainly don't take it on your own. Take it under the care of a hospital and a physician. Don't just take it randomly like the president. Oops. And certainly don't make your own at home. Don't try to make chemicals together. You don't have any kind of talent or skill or experience with this. You don't have any knowledge. You're probably going to poison yourself. And yeah, it would be great if they weren't doing this. But it's sad. They are. Another shout out to a cool app on my phone. It took me a long time to try it out, even though I bought it for like $8. But it's really cool. It's a David Bowie museum in AR, augmented reality, with narration and music. I had some trouble with the AR before, but I tried it the other day and it worked perfectly. It's called David Bowie is ... And if you're jonesing for a museum experience right now and you can't go outside because of the goddamn virus, check this out. It really did look like a museum. It had kind of a virtual cabinet. You could click on each of the documents. They'd become larger. You could see them. It had music from David Bowie and sound in the background. Mainly it was sold to me as a celebration of his costumes. So I wasn't that into it because I don't really care that much about costumes. But it turned out there was much, much more. And the AR, although it's very early and kind of silly, it really did kind of give you the feeling of being there, like looking at a glass case in a museum. But normally you can't see the things in the case very close. With this app, you could click on each of the David Bowie artworks or a picture of the album or an artwork that influenced or inspired him, and you could see a much larger version of the artwork. So it's very cool. If you're into David Bowie or you just want to go to a museum for fun, David Bowie is on the Apple App Store. The Adam Back is Satoshi is a deliberate, coordinated, and widespread attack on Mr. Back. Spreading or supporting this malicious and highly destructive lie makes you evil. Note the large number of fake Adam Back Twitter accounts claiming yes. And Adam Back even agrees, saying that the timing does seem coordinated. It's curious how loose connections that you make critically make no sense, but sound superficially plausible from soothing assumption tones and production values. Vlad Costa broke that down well, and shout out to Vlad. He made a very cool counter video explaining that Adam Back is not Satoshi Nakamoto, despite the pro video that someone else made. The recent move Satoshi coins may well have been an OG, proving that fake Toshi does not own them. Craig Wright claims ownership of that address in evidence submitted in Kleinman v. Wright. So it doesn't seem like he owns the coins. As I read yesterday in the trial, he said that he does not have the keys and he cannot move the coins. So now that someone else has moved them, either he lied under oath, that's a big problem, or he doesn't have access to these coins and he lied about that. So he lied or he lied. Not a good look for Craig Wright. There's also a really nice timer for bedtime, meditation to relax before sleep. I would check this one out. A lot of people are having trouble sleeping these days. Insight Timer is free on the Apple App Store. If you want to support it, they have a $20 a year subscription. So it's very affordable. I imagine it's probably a version for Android too. It's a very popular app, despite the kind of basicness of it being named after a timer. It might not get the advertising that Calm is getting, but $20 a year seems much more affordable than, I think Calm wants $10 a month or something like that. That's a lot more. They also had a nice one with Rusty Rockets, good old Russell Brand, comedian, actor, hilarious, and now quite into meditation and yoga and all these other kind of good things. So really neat to hear from Russell and to, kind of meditate with him. He did a little guided meditation. It was pretty nice. We've been muzzled. CDC sources say White House has been putting politics ahead of science. And we've all been wondering what happened to the Center for Disease Control. They used to be very strong in previous viral outbreaks. Obviously, the previous viral outbreaks were brought under control much quicker than this one, almost as if sidelining the CDC led to our current situation. Almost. U.S. versus Australia. Look at the U.S. right here, all the way up to the top. Oh, that's hot. Look at Australia. Down, little up, and then down. If only we lived in Australia, huh? Or any of these other countries, really, right? The big one turns out to be the best. U.S. population is 13 times that of Australia, so do you expect 13,000 dead if it matched Australia's response? However, in the U.S., we have 100,000 dead. In Australia, they have 100. So even if it was per capita, they would have 13,000. Still, an order of magnitude off that. And still, no national plan. We don't know about testing, tracing. We don't have a plan for the inevitable second wave and the new outbreak. We're not even discussing the second lockdown, which I think would be a good time. Maybe you were like, I remember in the last lockdown, I really wish I had some Cheez-Its. Well, this is a great time to shop for Cheez-Its. Who knows if they're even going to make them in the future. But yeah, you could get some of that stuff now. It's a great time to stock up on food and supplies. Maybe get some things fixed on your house. The workmen are all wearing masks and so on and so forth. You could avoid them or something. Good time to fix your air conditioning. We're heading into summer. Because yes, you're going to be locked in your house again. Deny it all you want. They spoke with Mike Schultz, who's gone viral for sharing a before-after photo of his 6 weeks in the hospital after contracting the coronavirus at the Miami Winter Party Festival. And you can see on the left-hand side, the man is in incredible shape, very strong, buff fellow. We can see on the right, he's lost almost all of his bulk fighting the virus. He's now a skinny version of himself. This happened fast in 6 weeks. Certainly a very strong gentleman here. Fighting the virus did this to him. What's it going to do to you? What's it going to do to old people? Don't mess around with this virus. It means it. It's real. Balaji writes, more good news. Software is eating these sectors too. Robots for farming, construction, and mining. IoT for digital, predictive maintenance. So it does seem like things are tightening up. We really do need basic income. We need to care about the people at the same time using these technologies to improve our society. We need to do both. If we only do one, the people will die, the technologies will improve our society, but who will be around to enjoy it? Meanwhile, if you're in Montgomery, Alabama, and you need an ICU bed, you're in trouble. If you're from Central Alabama and you need an ICU bed, you may not be able to get one because our healthcare system has been maxed out. Certainly, this isn't a reason to stop reopening the states. Certainly, this isn't the sign of a second outbreak bigger than the first, which our healthcare system is still not prepared for. Just ignore this, move along, pretend it's not happening, and we'll see how that works out. I enjoyed this from Justine at Miss Hoddle. If being a woman in crypto is shaking my tits around and occasionally saying Bitcoin, I don't want to be one. And it's interesting because we're seeing more and more of this kind of new videos that aren't so much about information, but more about entertainment. And I do hope that there are going to be women in Bitcoin who do not want to do what she's describing there and are into it for the right reasons. But it's very difficult. Bitcoin is money. A lot of people get into money for money reasons, not for the things you can do with the money, but just because they want to have a lot of money. Shout out to Programmable TX. He retweeted one of my tweets. He said, Quibi is so insanely dumb. I've been mad about its existence for a long time, just based on its premise. I hated it long before it launched. This analysis is phenomenal. And I gave a nice link yesterday on Twitter to Some More News, who does an incredible news show. He's very sarcastic. He's also very logical and science-based. And he just tears apart this Quibi thing, which apparently is a new video streaming service only for your phone that they spent $1.75 billion building. Then they made a bunch of deals with actors and actresses for content. And the content license goes back to the actors and actresses in a few years. So if the video is unsuccessful, they get it. They own it. And the videos are all about 10 minutes. And again, you can only watch them on your phone. It's really great breakdown by Some More News about what an idiotic idea this was. You've probably seen the advertisements. They spent a lot of that money on advertisements trying to get us to ask what Quibi was before Quibi goes away. So great episode by Some More News. Check him out. He's fantastic. Richard Feynman, professor, writes, read every day. Spend time with nature. Ask questions. Never stop learning. Don't pay attention to what others think of you. Do what interests you the most. Study hard. Teach others what you know. It's okay to make mistakes. Make mistakes and learn. Great stuff. Great stuff from Feynman. Really enjoying that biography of him, even though I expect it to be critical. So you can't get away with writing your own autobiography forever. And he got away with that for a long time. So I still think he's great, but I imagine he's just going to be a little less great. And finally, pro stadiums in California remained empty for now, but their parking lots are full. Rental car companies have parked hundreds of thousands of unused cars there as COVID-19 decimates the travel industry. No one is traveling, so no one is renting cars. And if you ever wondered how much extra inventory of cars we have, these aren't even the new cars coming in from China, other countries and so forth. These are just rental cars. So we had some extra cars. We kind of overproduced, I think. Seems like a lot of these, right? And what a sight it must see if you live near one of these stadiums and you went by kind of expecting to see it empty and maybe get some cool empty parking lot shots of Angel Stadium here, or maybe that's Dodgers field there as well, Chavez Ravine. And you end up, that's the Santa Ana racetrack, I imagine. And that could just be the port. But you end up instead getting these pictures of all these beautiful new looking rental cars in your parking lot. How strange is that? But just another example of that. Yeah, we've got a lot of cars. We've got a lot of rental cars. We got a lot of stuff. We produced a lot of things. Capitalism, baby. Overproduction. But I want to go ahead and open it up for phone calls right now. We did the news. We survived. You guys made it through. It was tough. It challenged a lot of your ideas. It brought up a lot of science. I know that was painful. Science can be rough. It doesn't really care about your politics, right? The science just wants, truth, right? The science only cares about truth. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to phone calls. If you guys would like to call in right now, you can call us now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We're going to try to keep this open for 5 or 10 more minutes here so you guys can call in. I am on like a 2 or 3 minute delay or something like that because of YouTube. So there will be a bit of a gap. Going to drink some water. Get ready for this. Again, if you're international, you can call with a 001 on your phone or 01, something like that. America is number 1 on the phone because we invented it. Also, if you'd like to try it out on Skype, you can get a free account. You could even use a not your normal email. You could create an email just for that. Get a Skype account. Call us up on Microsoft Skype. So we're reading here from the Dictionary of Modern American Usage. Cash money is a common redundancy. Example, the deal also make Wirtz cough up a pile of valuable cash money, more valuable than oxygen, this year and next year, making it nearly impossible to trade Roenick. Interesting sports example. They have another one. He decided to let Sotheby's turn the bones into cash money. So I don't think they really like the term cash money. I think he's speaking against it. I do think it's funny. Cash money. Getting a little loud there. I got to set up the sound here. Hold on just a sec. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Jennifer Silvas, and I'm calling from Seattle, Washington, and I just tuned in, and I missed all the science, Thomas.
Oh, I got in so much trouble whenever I talk about science. So many people don't like it.
I know.
They get all upset. And again, I don't want this to be true. If this is not true and we don't have a second wave and we don't have a second lockdown, I'm going to be on here every day saying, hooray, no second wave, no lockdown. The virus magically went away.
We're still on lockdown in Seattle, and there's like a lot of people that are like really casual about it, but it's enough to keep the curve flattened. And I appreciate Governor Inslee, and I am using this time I've been on Text Blockchain Academy, and I'm actually like all the stuff that I've been cutting and pasting and baking for a year, trying to figure out and looking up on Stack Overflow is now like magically clear to me, and I've actually started my game. Like I'm making a blockchain pony game for my Twitter friends, and I'm just like so excited. And I'm so sorry to be the person that's enjoying this, but I am just flourishing.
So you're working on kind of like 100 days of code or a year of code. You just want to kind of improve and learn code. Is that your plan?
Well, I was in an ICO when I first got in 2017, of course, right? And it was called Tribe, and the idea was to develop an app to crowdswarm the truth, because crowdswarming is like, accurate within like some percent, right? Sometimes it's like 2% or whatever. And so we had people working to gamify it, people working to make it into an app. The thing was, it was going to take such a huge base number of people. It was layered, so everything was anonymous. It wasn't like you're going to verify the news article. Everything would get broken down into a separate fact and go to a separate verifier. And then part of the idea was that the Tribe tokens would get translated into micropayments, and that a person could, by verifying the details, a person could make a few dollars a day, which isn't enough to do just crap here. But there's some countries in the world where a few dollars a day would make like all of the difference for somebody, right? And so it was like this really huge. It was David Mondras, the first man to be married on the Bitcoin on the blockchain.
I was going to say it reminded me. I think that Mondras had told me about that. I met him a couple times out of the conferences and so forth. So yeah, I'd heard of it for sure.
Yeah. Yes, I was on that project, and it was so exciting that it was such a huge undertaking, and then you run out of money, and then everybody's like into crypto for the speculation, there's so much, I'm going to be so incoherent. I'm so sorry. Thank you for listening. So much incredible social potential. And I get the blockchain developers make, like 6 figures a year and all of that, but that's not why I'm doing it. My ideal situation would be to get a universal basic income that I'm happy and comfortable living on, and just freaking just dig in and really do something productive for a company. So the reason that I started, and this is going to get back to somebody else, the reason that I started blockchain development was another person on the project, our developer, Thomas Smith, who I'm still friends. Oh my God, I love him. He's so awesome. Anyway, he had suggested that I look at the Culture Project, and I had tried to get involved with the Culture Project, but I didn't really have enough experience for Tony, for what Tony Lane was after, because he's like, interplanetary class And she asked if I was a developer, and I had to say no. And it was like, that was the moment that I decided I was going to become a blockchain developer, when I had to tell Tony Lane, no, I'm not a developer. I can't help you with that on this amazing project.
Oh.
So that's my story.
Well, that's awesome that you turned around and decided to do that. Maybe just tell the people a little bit about maybe your routine or how you're sticking into this, because I know a lot of people want to do positive things with the lockout. I've been trying to do basic things like sit-ups and failing horribly. But how are you doing it? Do you set aside a little time of the day to do your programming, or do you work at like a job, like 9 to 5? What's your strategy?
I don't have a job. I'm getting the amazing unemployment, and it's giving. I had decided that I was doing catering, shift gig catering.
Yep.
And the tech companies were already running out of money. COVID isn't killing them. They had quit having big gigs. Everything.
Well, and I remember you told us earlier that they had already stopped in January, February. So that it was a really neat, unique piece of information that, you'd say, oh, would a caterer know anything, about the world and that kind of thing? But no, because the tech companies stopped, you could kind of tell that something was up out there.
Yeah, I can tell you they're not having parties.
That's right. It means something. I mean, it's interesting, and that's a lot that you learn from kind of like the Spy Game or reading Tom Clancy novels or whatever. You're like, you can leak information without knowing that you're leaking information. Like, you canceled that party for a reason. That woman over there won't drink a glass of wine because she's pregnant. These little leaks of information you don't intentionally leak. So it's neat stuff.
Right. Oh yeah. It's amazing. Oh yeah. I used to show horses and stuff, and that's just like, man, that's just a gold mine, land mine, something, minefield of gossip.
Absolutely.
And you don't even know, like, you say something and somebody overhears it, and you don't even know what you said, and that goes like, 10 degrees away, and it's something.
So what have you been doing to learn programming? Do you have a book that you're following, or how's it going?
No, I was doing online tutorials and messing around with Remix, and then I had just kind of given up on like you do something for a while, and like you mentioned, I cut and pasted and launched the token. But
that's all it took. You just cut and paste, and you have a token. There you go.
Well, I mean, you have to like fiddle with it and stuff, and I didn't know what I was doing, so it was work to do, and I figured a lot of stuff out. But I had left over. I had a test out Linux systems admin course. I had like somebody workforce had paid for me to do a quarter to community college, and all of the Linux course was you buy the test out course, and that was 2 quarters of the Linux that somebody's paying the community college for me to take. It's a total scam. Anyway, so I was working on the Linux test out course, and then I started and I have to get to Volter and see what my machine's doing. I started like just launching free virtual machines, so I learned how to do the keys and stuff, and everybody makes fun of me because I don't know any terminology, but I'm like, yeah, but I still get shit done, so it's okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to learn. I'm old. So I started launching virtual machines, and Eddie Jaoud, who does is open source Eddie, he's in England, and he does like a lot of like getting people involved with GitHub and open source, and he's usually running something on YouTube or doing a project or running a hackathon or something, right? Anyway, so I ended up like watching his brown bag lunch at 5 a.m, and then he made me an admin, and now I'm an admin on his Discord. So like I'm using this time to network. So how do I do it? I find a course and I do the course, and I just slowly do the course. And if you do a tutorial, you have to find a tutorial that works. And if you do a tutorial, you have to code along with the tutorial. You have to, and it takes forever. And you go back and forth, and shit won't compile. And then you go, oh my God. And hopefully the guy will answer your questions when you message him. And this is why I went to Ivan on Tech Academy, because last year I was having trouble installing Truffle, which, I mean, I'm not saying I can use it, but I can install it, and I can get all that stuff together, man. I even thought about doing a job, and I might still do this, where I just buy old Windows laptops and install all the crypto crap on it. Well, it's not crap. All of the wonderful IDEs and frameworks that all of these developers are doing free and open source for us, because this is the new wave. This is actually the bleeding edge. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out because you're on the bleeding edge, and it's people that are doing it for free to help the world. So nobody should complain. Just like installing stuff and selling it to people who couldn't deal with the installing part, because I love it. I'm like, oh, it's like training. It's like training spoiled ponies. You're like, okay, I won't do that. Now what did I do? Now I've learned about, I forgot what it's called, but the JavaScript manager. Uh-huh. So now, like on the outro, anytime I install anything, it's going to start with that damn JS manager. So I'm not running into all my version problems.
Very cool. See, there's a lot of stuff to learn, like the GitHub stuff and the packages and the different things, but I think you've got a really good attitude about it, doing the tutorials slowly and accepting that you have to rewind. Like when you're watching those cooking shows and they stick the thing in the oven and they pull it right out and it's perfect. It always seemed unfair to me. It didn't seem real. And to actually do it, like you're saying, is the way you'd have to do it if you really wanted to learn it from nothing. Is to rewind and to watch it over and to do it with it. I do the same for my German app on Duolingo. I'm supposed to read the thing out loud when I do it, and I feel kind of stupid, and I'm not great at reading German and stuff even after a year. But I just keep plugging away at it, and I have more words memorized than I did before. And I used to have no German at all, like not even a word. And now I can read it pretty well. Like I can pick up a lot of the connecting words, and a lot of the words are familiar to me. Yep. And it's only been a year, and the app wasn't that expensive. Duolingo's pretty affordable, and you can use it for free if you want to. And I do it every day instead. And sure, I still goof off on Twitter all the time and all that stuff. But as long as you spend 5-10 minutes a day learning a language, or maybe an hour or two trying to do the tutorials and learn to code.
Do you listen to German music and watch German movies and stuff?
Not yet. I should probably get some Hasselhoff. But
right? Oh, that's so funny. Well, just play it like in the background, like something like maybe some like play German music quietly in the background while you're reading. Okay, Thomas, I learned French and Latin and Greek in college, and I was a classicist. I was studying art history, like classical art history.
Yeah.
And part of why I never went to grad school was because I could never learn German, and all of the writing was German, and I couldn't learn it. And I learned Latin and Greek. I'm like,
that's impossible.
Latin,
No,
Greek,
they tried to teach
French.
me. They tried to teach me Spanish forever, and I never could pick very much of it up, and I'm embarrassed how much time I spent like not learning it. Because it just didn't take, and I don't know whether this app works or whether I'm just doing it every day, and I don't know if I've gained more than I would if I went to a class or something. But no, it seems doable, and I did it pretty much what you're saying there. I found it to be a huge challenge while I was in Germany, like looking at these ridiculous words, like not being able to break them down into parts, and now even with this little knowledge, I start to see them as compound words. So it's not like 23, it's 23, 3 and 20, instead of this massive word of confusion. And that's, that's not Schadenfreude or any of those longer words that they have, so, but it's all compound words. I mean, Badzimmer means bathroom, Zimmer means room, and Bad means bath. So it's not that bad. But yeah, they get out of control with it.
We do that a lot and don't even notice, like drawstring, cupboard. I don't know.
Yeah, cupboard. Yeah. A board
but
where you put your cups. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's nothing like that, is it? Awesome. Well, it was super nice talking with you, and I'm enjoying. I don't know, kind of like I got divorced a couple years ago and moved from Alaska to Seattle, and it's just been really hectic. And that was kind of at the same time that everything crashed, and like I didn't have time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really super nice to finally have, like the time and the income. Like I don't have to struggle or anything. Like I had determined that I was going to do rely on unemployment as much as possible so I could learn enough to actually do something else. And everything has just worked out really nicely for me. And I'm sorry people are scared, and I'm sorry people don't like being locked up, and I'm sorry people can't stand to be with themselves. I really, really am. And I get it that a lot of people don't want to be in tight confinement with their families for weeks at a time. I'm by myself. That makes it easier. But
it's easier on one way. It's also harder to be alone. I mean, I have my brother here, and like brothers do, we get on each other's nerves sometimes. But if he wasn't here, I think I would have gone crazy weeks ago. So just having at least one person around, or having someone you can call.
I'm in a room in a house. Like I'm not alone.
There you
in
go.
an apartment.
That's good.
Like
so.
So that I don't have to worry about anybody else.
But I do think it's definitely been, if you look at it the right way, this has kind of been a great potential time. Like I know I sorted a lot of my stuff. I did a lot of my organization that I never thought I would do. I'm working on scrapbooking again, which if I was on the road, I would certainly not be scrapbooking on the road. And just all this kind of things. I mean, yesterday my room was kind of getting piled up. Like I had some junk piles going, and I put all those away, and I made the whole room nice. And when I woke up this morning, it was great. I didn't trip over anything. I didn't have to worry about that. And, I don't know why I did that to myself for like a few days, having all these piles, but you just fall into these traps and you think you don't have the time. Well, now you've got the time. And I always suggest people follow, even though, it's a silly movie and stuff, it's called About a Boy. And in About a Boy, Hugh Grant is unemployed because his father wrote a Christmas song. So he's living off the royalties his whole life. And what he suggests in the movie is you break your day up into parts. And he likes to use little 15-minute elements like getting a haircut, that's 2 or 3 15-minute units. Going to play billiards and pool, that's 2 or 3 15 minutes. Going to a movie. So he breaks up his day into parts. And that's how he deals with living off these royalties. Because, he can live, but he can't live that grand or anything. He can't go out of control.
Right.
And that's why I think living on unemployment or just kind of your savings or hoping Bitcoin goes up, that gives you that freedom to try to really live your life. But you got to schedule it like a cruise conductor. You got to be like, we're going to go here and we're going to go do this, and have some schedule to it. So
we've opened up enough that we're doing like socially distanced Muay Thai in the park like 2 days a week for my martial arts. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we meet and watch videos and discuss grappling.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to learn jujitsu, and the dojo that I walked into and liked the coach and joined, I found out a month later he'd been like a champion in Japan at the beginning of MMA, and I was like, oh.
Awesome.
I know. Anyway, so that kind of helps keep things going, and I keep things in 20-minute chi cycles. You know, but the thing is like, I mean, like, you can't go to the gym, but this one guy had this trick for working out. He said that he would say he didn't have to work out. He just had to go to the gym and touch his locker. And once he was there, of course, he worked out, you know, and I kind of did something like that with going to the gym. But you can't, I mean, like, we can't go anywhere, but you can look at something. You can say, okay, I'm going to look at this for 5 minutes, you know, and then once you sit down and look at it, then you're in it doing it, you know, like, don't start out to say, I'm going to clean this whole thing, because if you do that, then maybe you fail because something came up, or, you know, you lost sight 20 minutes in. I used to work with a cowboy in Hermiston, and he would say something's better than nothing. And I think that that's a really super important approach to have when you're having trouble getting started on something. You know, at least you can get something done.
Absolutely. Yeah. My roommate would always say that action comes before motivation. And it doesn't make any sense,
right?
But like, you're thinking, if I look at a bookshelf and I'm like, I want to clean up just one shelf. And if I clean up that one shelf, I'm taking action. And once I've cleaned up that one shelf, I'll be like, hey, I feel good about this. Now I'm motivated to do the whole thing and to clean the room and do the vacuuming. And normally I'd never do that. So it's hard to understand that. But yeah, that is a thing. Yeah,
action does come before motivation. That's really super important.
And the other thing on the gym, I do the same kind of thing for the gym back when I used to go. But I read this thing where they said, if you put on your gym clothes, then you'll go to the gym. And if you sit there all day in your gym clothes and not go, then you're going to feel bad about it. And you're going to, try to correct that. So just the act of putting on the shorts and putting on the shirt, I feel like it's gym time, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I kind of miss the gym. It is really hard for me to keep up working out at home, and I really like weight training. It's probably only a couple times a week. I pull out bands and really do something with that. Mm-hmm. And I'm still doing yoga a couple times a week. If people are interested in yoga, I think the people on YouTube, I think they go pretty fast, and I've been doing it a long time. You can slow down the YouTube, do a 10-minute yoga in 20 minutes. Find substitutions for the hard parts. It's okay. I remember when I started yoga, how horribly hard it was, and I couldn't get through the Surya Namaskar without just oh my gosh. And now I'm doing extra planking in parts, and throwing in extra things and doing extra stuff, and really enjoying it. It's something. When I first started working out, I'd worked out before, but then I had fibromyalgia, and then I kind of crawled out of bed, white knuckled out of bed, and started doing stuff, and then managed to fix it through food. Mm-hmm. I couldn't overhead press soup cans, and now I'm doing MMA and biking miles a day, and I couldn't overhead press soup cans. So there's another compound word, overhead. But soup can, but that might not be a compound word yet. So people are you're I'll hear something. I'm 55. And people go, oh, well, can you start learning coding when you're 40? And I just quit even telling people how old I am. I'm just sure you can, whatever. But it's hard. It's hard. And even I used to be fit, so it's different. But even if you've never been fit, you can still get more fit. And even if you're old and you never worked out and you can't overhead press the soup can, try overhead press your hands, overhead, do something, do some exercise, get moving. When people quit smoking, their lungs heal within a couple of years, So when you start exercising, your bone density grows, your fat conversion gets more efficient. You're not all those growth hormones and stuff you get from working out, all that stuff happens. You can improve your sleep when you're 60, even if you never slept a proper night in your life. You can do these things. And now we have the time.
I definitely agree. And there's lots of help out there. It used to be a lot harder. You'd read a book and it's not that interactive. Now you can watch videos. You can communicate directly with these people. You can ask questions about code. I know a lot of the time things that, chased me away from code is I would be completely stuck, completely on my own, and just going crazy. and I couldn't do it. I mean, I was good at other things. I was like, I'll just go read a history book and tell you what it is because I can do that and I don't feel bad. But no, with the code thing, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get help. The way they were teaching it back then is they were kind of trying to weed you out. They had too many programming people, and they wanted to make it really hard and really fast. And you know, I wasn't getting it, and it didn't work for me. And then later on, years later, I wanted to make a blog, and a friend of mine showed me a little bit PHP and MySQL, and I had no problem, you know, making a blog and making a movie database and doing the kind of things where I understood why I wanted to do that, what the outcome was, and what it should look like. Whereas when they were teaching me like arrays and we were moving numbers around, we were doing all this stuff, I was like, what is this for? Like, I don't understand. Like, this doesn't connect to me. And now they teach you JavaScript and all kinds of things that are easier and better than C++. So I think it's gotten a lot better. It's a lot more accessible than it used to be.
It is. You can learn anything now. It's so wonderful. We have the whole world in our hands. You have more in your hand than they pretended to send a man to the moon with. I'm just messing with you.
We do. And it's so funny because I watched this great video back in the day. It was called Epic 2014, but it came out long before that. And they said the internet can be the best of all possible worlds. You know, we can learn stuff. We can learn German and code and exercise, all these things. Or it can be the worst. It can be gossip and garbage and trash and negative stuff. And I think a lot of people just fall into that because it's easier, and it's easier to just have I'm always messing with the icons on my phone. My favorite game is sorting the icons, and I swear sometime I'm going to get it right. But recently, I tried to hide all of the things that I didn't think were productive, and I tried to like bring the productive things up in the menus and I was like, you're going to be, you know, my new productive phone. And then a week later, the Twitter apps, or a day later, the Twitter app's back, and a week later, the Facebook's app back, and I'm going to Google News every day again. But so it doesn't work. But still putting Duolingo on there, I was trying to focus on, it's kind of stupid, but I bought that toothbrush that has the Bluetooth inside it. I thought it would help me brush my teeth more. I know. And it connects to this Oral-B. It is cool. I think it's cool. It wasn't that much more or anything, but it connects to this Oral-B app that isn't very good. But as part of my, you know, stuck at home self-improvement, I was like, hey, I should brush my teeth after lunch. And the app gives you a badge if you do that. So I was like, hey, I got to get that badge. So I set an alarm on my phone every day at 1 o'clock. It says brush teeth. And, you know, pretty much I just listen to it and I go brush my teeth. So now I'm in a better shape on toothbrushing. And you don't have to buy the Bluetooth thing. You can just set an alarm on your phone, and it's neat that it tracks me and I can look at the information and try to improve. But I also have, you know, the scales that hook up to your phone. They used to be like $80, but now they're like $20 at Amazon. Like, everyone makes them. So I've got the magic scale that, just a normal scale. And this one is called, the program's called SoFit. Let me look at the scale name. It has a weird, like, it's called Renpho, RENPHO. And it was just the cheapest, you know, internet connected scale on Amazon.com. And I had the old one and it broke and it was expensive. But this one I don't care that much about. It's only $20. And it does it does all the like body fat analysis and all the other kind of analysis as it can do. And, you know, just mainly tracking that weight and just looking at it. And even if you don't do anything, just being aware of it and having the data helps you out, and I think could set you on the right track too. So I definitely try to track a lot of stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, Google messed with their fitness app and it doesn't track the same way it used to, and their mapping is all messed up. I don't know. They did something to their maps and it messed up a bunch of stuff. Their calendar and their maps. I don't know. Anyway, so like I can go like on a 5-mile bike ride and it'll say like 0.3 miles because I went in a loop and how it tracked. Or
that's weird.
After socially distanced Muay Thai in the park because you can do drills. You can't do grappling.
Yeah, I don't know how people are ever going to do Aikido again. I mean, our whole practice is touching people and throwing them. And, you know, I love all my Aikido people and I wouldn't want to get any of them sick. And it's been years since I did it anyway. But no, I still don't know how a lot of people are going to come back, at least until we get a vaccine. So
I'm pretty brave for myself. And, you know, like I don't worry about me. And there's other people that are that way, but I certainly am careful of other people. And I give them their distance when we pass on the sidewalk. It's really funny because people will like stop so the other person can take a big loop around on the sidewalk and stuff like that, which is it's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool too, because everybody's being like really courteous that way.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It feels a little weird. I've always been kind of standoffish from other people anyway, but now they're standoffish from me too. So it's kind of really strange.
Right. But yeah, I don't know about martial arts, and I'm sure we'll do martial arts eventually. I'm not too worried about that, but I think it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it ever really even died down in China, and like it just seems so calm here that it's hard for me to get worked up. But I watch Dr. John Campbell, and he has all of these updates, and
it's hard to be afraid of something we can't see, and it's also I think we've got that just fatigue. We've got lockdown fatigue. A lot of people aren't used to this, don't have a good strategy to survive it, and they're tired. They don't care anymore. But the virus is still out there, and it doesn't care that you don't care. So.
Well, if people are really dying, like I read some, like I don't think it's a hoax, and I read that thing. There was that thing with the like U-Haul full of bodies outside a funeral home, and people like post obituaries and
yep.
compare numbers. And I try not to look at that. I'm trying to just stay really positive, and I'm not worried about myself because I'm really, really pretty impervious to most diseases, and I'm not concerned about it, and I'm really healthy. But a lot of people aren't. And I certainly hope, I'm glad that there's not bodies in the street. There seem to be in, where is it? There's a couple places in South America that are really, really bad. And some districts in India, like I'm friends with a few Indians on Facebook, and I don't know what they're seeing themselves, but they're sharing stuff around, a lot of stuff that isn't getting out on the news because countries don't want to look bad. And we can say whatever we want to about like Trump and Fauci, and I might not swerve if I were driving, but hopefully that's not a threat. But we're doing really well in the U.S. We're doing really damn well here, I think, and I don't think it's. But I'm in Seattle, and I think.
Well, yeah, Seattle. I mean, you're in a very unique position where Governor Inslee acted early and acted what many people thought was harshly. But now we turn back and we say, oh, no, he was right. Like he was just being cautious and protecting his people, and even still being under lockdown now it's a great position to be in.
So maybe we're just doing well here in Washington. Idaho's doing well. I have a friend in Idaho, and it's easy for me to be cavalier here because I actually have a BOL. I have a bug out location in Idaho with my best friend from Alaska, and she's got food, and I send her money, and she buys preps, so if I can get to Idaho, I'm fine. If we run out of food, I've got food, and it's not here in the city where the zombies are going to eat it, So I can sound like a carefree Pollyanna, but I do have my backup stash.
Getting ready for the next level of this, huh? So, there you go.
And I'm spending. Like I was helping a lot of friends out who weren't getting unemployment yet, and so like I was spending my unemployment helping my friends with their, with their bills, and then a couple of them got unemployment and paid me back, and that's great. And I'm investing in Bitcoin as much as possible. And I think it was called average dollar cost or dollar cost average or something. I'm just nibbling in and just stick it in a pot. And then when it goes way down, I'll move it off Coinbase.
There you go.
It won't be a high value. And I know that's not the best place to buy it. That's where I already had an account when I started buying again. It was just the easiest way to do it. I'm in Washington. You can't go, I can't use Kraken. I have to go to Idaho and get a little lease and sign up from Idaho to use Kraken. It's so ridiculous.
That's so strange that there's still states where you can't just use all the things, even in this day, that there's still like restrictions.
Idiots that changed my address on the site. I didn't even think about it. And they're like, oh, we see you not in Alaska anymore. I'm like, oh, shit.
You ratted yourself out. You were just going around doing the right thing, updating your information, make sure it's all correct, and then whoop, now you can't even shop here anymore. So
I love this space so much, and I don't even mind. It's the same thing with like growing herbs. Like I can't order. I think here I'm not like legally allowed to order mullein seeds. They're trying to eradicate it from the state, and there's like, oh my gosh, so I have to go out and find it like growing illegally in the wild.
Pretty strange. A lot of things.
I'm used to the Byzantine state-to-state regulations, like with wild plants that I like to grow. But yeah.
Well, we'll just have to keep going and keep doing things. So it's very cool. You're learning to code. I hope we can inspire more people to do that. And maybe it's not code. Maybe it's cooking, or maybe it's working out or cleaning or reading books or religion or whatever you want to learn. Like, go learn it right now.
I have a friend who's a photographer, and he has been spending this time just blossoming as an artist, and they boarded up over buildings and people were painting, and he got like commandeered to like paint the side of a building, and like not the side of the building, the board of that part. Yeah, I mean, it's and the whole demographic I'm in the U district right now, in Seattle, and the whole demographic's changing because so much of the coursework's going to online. And, there's students that are just like moving out of the U district in droves right now. So the subletting's like really hot.
Yeah, it's going to be very strange in the future if none of the students have to attend college. And then I've also heard from New York City, they say that every single apartment building that has an elevator, the elevator is full of people moving out. People are getting the heck out of these cities. So it's going to change a lot of things. And it's very strange because you think of it as always expensive real estate and impossible to live there. And maybe it's flipped to being unsafe to live there. So even though I still kind of desire, a place in San Francisco or a weekend in New York or something, maybe it's not safe.
It flips overnight, and they're going to be, I think I've heard that they're going to be converting a lot of office space into apartments. And that is a good idea.
They're definitely going to have to do something with it. I think that we're going to see a commercial real estate crash, just as we're seeing an office real estate crash, and then eventually it'll come to houses and cities and all kinds of places where you thought you were strong. Like if you had bought San Francisco even just a couple of years ago, you'd be up now and you'd be feeling good and you'd be making money. And maybe in a couple more years, it doesn't look that way anymore, just because people don't want to live in the city. It's not nice or anything.
Yeah, real estate's really going to change a lot. There's going to be a complete restructuring of the economy, and it was due anyway. And my heart goes out to people that are thinking about getting back to normal, because normal wasn't going to be back to normal. We were going to crash. This is not because of COVID. This is accelerated because of COVID. And it's not, it's not like all of us down here, it's not our fault. The economy's crashing, I don't know. The landlady where I was renting in Redmond is like, she was calling me about something. She just talks too much, kind of a slumlord situation. But she's like talking about coming up and finding furniture to sell because she doesn't have any money. Her basic income was contracting and Airbnb or Airbnb and short-term renting to Microsoft contractors, and they're all gone.
Yeah, the Airbnb thing is really strange because people built up little empires of apartments and leases and stuff, and they were doing really well, and they were good at it and all that. And then whoop, it's over.
Yep, raising the rents in the area, raising the price of property in the area.
They sure were. They sure did, and especially you see in a place like Amsterdam, they were actually going to crack down on this Airbnb, and they were going to have a lottery, and you could only host your house if you win the lottery, and that kind of thing. And then now, it might not matter that much. It might not be such a problem. Airbnb, laid off 25% of their staff. They're in a free fall. They might not even IPO now. They were going to be the next Uber. Oh yeah. They are on fire in a bad way. And the same thing for Uber and Lyft and all these other companies that really seemed invincible. And the very idea of the sharing economy, if you want to borrow my lawnmower, but I touched it and it has the virus and you get killed for borrowing my lawnmower, maybe it's a better idea to buy your own lawnmower. I mean, we've fallen backwards really fast. So.
Well, I think, Yep. Airbnb was quarantine and stuff. Yes, absolutely.
Well, and they are saying they don't know how long the virus lasts on surfaces. So maybe the lawnmowers are okay. And we can keep riding in Ubers. But the travel industry is down. The rental cars, the Airbnb, the airplanes, all of that.
I'm an antiviral, so I'm not worried about that. But that I've seen people get really, really sick.
Yeah.
I wonder how long we can just like hang out in isolation like this. I wonder how long this will work for.
Well, I mean, they can print money forever, and then but
right.
then there's the other problem where no one to drive the trucks and no one to run the meat processing plants and the food plants and picking the vegetables and all that. So that does start to collapse. We don't have the same food supply that we used to have. Stores used to actually have like a backup supply in case they ran out of stuff.
Right.
But they changed it to this on-demand sales where they only have like half a week of supplies. So when we saw those empty shelves, they were empty in the back too. And that's just something we did. And I don't know that we're in the position to start overproducing, or even if we do switch away from meat and maybe switch to more like MREs or some kind of pre-prepared food. I don't know. We're not ready for it. So that's going to be the problem. And that's why we do need, and we will need, some kind of partial reopenings and things. But it could just be done in a much more strategic fashion. I mean, this nonsense over haircuts. I mean, the line I saw on the video at Ross. I mean, I've been to that Ross. It's here in Las Vegas, and I like Ross. I like discount stuff. But I wouldn't wait in line and risk my life for it. And I don't feel denied of new clothes right now. I don't really feel like I need to go out there and get like a new jacket or whatever. It doesn't. No one's seen me in 3 months. Doesn't matter. I wear the same T-shirts every day. It's no big deal. But apparently these other people have completely different values than me. And you see the kids in the lines, and you see the families in the lines, and maybe they're bored. They just want to go outside. But
like the parents will have masks on and the kids won't. But I guess that's more like looking in terms of contagion.
Well, but it's very possible that children are spreading this, that they're carriers. And then we've also seen.
You're right. You're right, because it affects them completely differently.
Yeah, I mean, and the asymptomatic thing. I mean, you don't know that you're carrying it. Like when you know you're sick.
That's why I wear a mask on the bus.
That's it. You got to take these responsibilities. You got to not spread this.
I'm not going to be the one that kicks off the bus driver. One bus driver I know, I was the only one on the bus, so I had me get on in front and talk to me. I'm like, oh, that's you behind that mask. And he's like, yeah. They were like having a conversation about the last time he picked me up, and I got on him back. And I had a loaner bike because my bike's in the shop because I can't get parts.
Yep.
See, there it is. And find like the last set of 3x7 shifters on eBay, that would work on the bike. There were 2 left. I ordered a set, and then the guy's like, I said, dude, if your parts come in, put them on the bike, and I'll walk around with a box of shifters. I'm fine. I will need them someday. It's just like you have to go find your own parts and get the last set,
Well, that's it. It's changing already. It was in the old Great Depression. Everyone always used to save everything in case you could use it again, in case it would be valuable. And we went against that for a long time, and now maybe we're going back to it. I don't know.
I was in the recycling club in Soldotna when I was in Alaska, and I used to make and sell reusable shopping bags out of like brightly colored feed bags. And I had a joke. I had one that was made out of medicated chick feed. I said it was for the city housewife.
Nice.
And then like you can do so many things with plastic water bottles. And Open Source Ecology has a 3D printer build that's under $600. Not exciting anymore. But Hugh Lyman in Enumclaw, Washington, developed a filament maker that makes filament for 3D printers out of shredded up plastic water bottles. So there's like all of these things that have been being thrown away. People are going to have to start looking at as resources. We have tons of resources. And then Open Source Ecology has got all of these like scalable, low cost, buildable, like industrial strength machines. And the idea is that you can move parts from one machine to the next. They're like interchangeable. It's like industrial machine Lego. That are designed for like basically decentralizing production. We're going to be pushed into this like decentralized economy, like it or not, and that's what so many people have been going for. So we have this overlay of COVID, and that's like separating people out and forcing people into situations that maybe they don't want to be in. But it's also like accelerating this crash of the economy, and at the same time, people have the time, and I realize not everybody has the resources, but a lot of people who wouldn't otherwise have resources do have resources right now. But we have the time to really research these different methods of governance and ways of looking at the world.
Yep, there's always a silver lining if you can find it. But yeah, I think it's really good to stay positive and to work on your programming concepts and other things that we're working on here. So I think it's good stuff, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I just went on and on forever. And Thomas, you're just like, your show helps so much, and just like showing up and talking about it every day. And I know you take a lot of heat for it. But I mean, even the people giving you heat appreciate you for being there, obviously, or they wouldn't be here giving you heat.
Yeah, and I'm not. A lot of it, I see them come back every day, and I see that the negative numbers go up, and we lost a lot of subscribers and stuff. But yeah, they do come back, and they come back to argue with me. And I think a lot of it is that they think I've gone like off the rails here, and that I'm wrong in the science and stuff. And they want me to come back, and I appreciate that. That's really valuable that they believe in their side so much that they want to convince me of it and bring me back to it, rather than just abandoning me and saying that I'm totally wrong. And then I think on the other side, there are a lot of people that do like the science and just like listening to the show, but they're not as loud as the other people. The negative people are usually louder than the positive people. But yeah, I'm trying to keep doing it, and I like it. But yeah, sometimes it does bum me out when people get negative, or there's this stay in your box type thing. And I know they did that to Andreas too, and he got really mad. But yeah, I mean, I shifted the show. This is the Thomas Hunt Show. It's about things that Thomas Hunt's interested in. If you're not interested in that, you're not going to like it. And I tried to do that kind of thing. But of course, I guess I could start on a new channel, but then no one would listen, and it would be very hard to rebuild. So
you don't need to start on a new channel. I mean, people grow and first off, people grow and change, right? And then like, you're providing free content, for heaven's sake.
That's
I see people do this to YouTubers all the time. Like, you're there, you're putting yourself out in the world, and then people are just like obnoxious about it because they want you to be providing other content. But look, we're all in lockdown. They've got their phones, they've got their computers. They can provide content. If there's content that you want out there, provide it.
That's right.
Don't be grumping at Thomas here.
Well, and make your own YouTube channel where you just say the opposite things that I say every day, and get your own people. It's very easy. Anyone can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, very cool.
Exactly.
Thanks for the call, Jennifer. Give us a call anytime, and keep working on the programming and the exercising. I think that's very good stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, you'll get the German. I would play some German in the background and just kind of get it in your sub mind.
I'll definitely give it a try. I've been doing good with the Duolingo so far. It's not that much a commitment.
Really good things about that app.
It's like 5-10 minutes a day, and it starts out very difficult. You don't know anything, and it's very hard. But after a while, I look at a lot of the words, and I can just see them as what they are somehow. So it's pretty magical.
Yeah, I love learning languages. I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right, talk to you later then. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. And very cool to hear from Jennifer there from the chat. We'll try to keep the phone calls open. It's almost 11 o'clock, so we only got really 15 minutes left. But if you want to call in, you can call now at 1-518-600-1949, or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We could take maybe just one more phone call, maybe a shorter one, or a couple of really short ones. If you want to call in. Otherwise, we're probably going to head towards the end of the show, but I'll try to give you a couple minutes to call in, maybe check out some more A Dictionary of Modern American Usage. It's great to see them so upset with cash money. X-felon is an illogical expression, except perhaps in reference to a pardoned offender, because a convicted offender does not lose the status of felon simply by serving out a criminal sentence. Once a felon, always a felon. But ex-convict is all right. Convict now being viewed as a close synonym of prisoner. So that's interesting. Ex-felon is an illogical expression. This book's kind of fun. I don't know if I could just read it straight up, though. Oh, there's a long chapter on exonerate. Exorbitant. Having departed or deviated from one's track or orbit or rut, is sometimes mistakenly spelled as exorbitant, perhaps because it's confused with exhort. The developers and tenants, however, insist that the costs are far from exorbitant. So that's neat. Exorbitant is similar to exorbitant. That's interesting. I don't know that I knew this word, having departed or deviated from one's track or orbit or rut. Interesting. Let's try another big flip. Couple more words, then I think we're going to head to the end. Offhand, offhanded. Although offhand, not offhanded, is the standard adjective, offhandedly is the standard adverb. Ah. Let's see what else we got. Bunch of them just refer to other ones. Oh, earlier I was curious if bedtime was one word or two. I wonder if they'll have that. Might be too simple. I don't think it matters. Let's see. We'll go to bed, see if we can find anything in bedtime. Breach, black, bestier, bellwether, behold, begin, because, beckon, beef. It doesn't even look like there is a bed. Any words with bed? Let's see. Because. Now we go straight from because, which is a very long entry, to beckon. Because, beckon, beef, beg. Beef. This word has two plurals in reference to types of meat or to complaints. The plural is beefs, but the reference to fattened cattle, the plural is beeves. I didn't know that. B-E-V-E-S. So if you've got beefs, you could have complaints with someone. But if you had beeves, you would have many cows or many beefs. You would have a lot of meat. Let's try one more. Bettor with an O is the standard spelling for one who bets or wagers. Better, B-E-T-T-E-R, has also been used in this sense, but is liable to confusion within the comparative form of good. Example, each week, the din coming from the Colosseum was tremendous, not from the birds crowing over their heads off as they go slaughtering each other, but from the bettors, yelling out wagers until one or another is willing to accept the odds. So it's interesting. Bettors is improper there with the ERS. Bettors, I suppose, would be better, but it looks wrong. It really does look wrong. The bettors, people who gamble, looks correct. So that's interesting. But thanks again for watching this show. It's about 10:50. We're going to head to the end. Maybe just one more check of the price of Bitcoin. I've been keeping an eye on it. Looks like it has a candle with a wick pointing downward, not quite all the way filled in. So we might have found a temporary bottom already. The price of Bitcoin is down 5.05% with a last of $9,043, a high of $9,597, a low of $8,926. That's $1 for 11,062 Satoshis. The likely cause for this temporary Bitcoin decline is people who are afraid that Satoshi has moved his coins, but we all know those are very unlikely to be Satoshi coins. They are early coins. They're very, very early, but they're probably not Satoshi coins. However, the market is overreacting and freaking out because perhaps Satoshi's come back and perhaps he's going to sell all his coins. So who knows, but we're keeping an eye on this. Thanks to everyone for giving us a thumbs up and a share. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Thanks to Jennifer for calling in. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, you could retweet this. Maybe if you're watching on Twitter, you could just reply to the tweet and say, hey, this is cool, or hey, it's not cool, or whatever you want to say. Just send us a message on Twitter. Let us know if you're listening to this on Twitter, if it's worth putting out on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. Remember, after the video ends, you can always come back and leave a comment. It was interesting. I don't know what happened to yesterday's chat. I always try to check back and take a look at the chat afterwards. YouTube does that neat thing where it lines it up to the video so future people can reenact the chat and they can gain from all the knowledge that you're spreading in there. But yeah, yesterday's chat didn't render. I don't know what happened. I waited for it, and then when I looked, it was blank. So nothing that I did. I don't know that maybe you put out some government secrets in the chat or something. I don't know what happened to yesterday's chat, but hopefully yesterday's chat will be there. And hopefully you'll have a good day, right? Drink some water, do a little exercise, do some stretching, maybe learn to code, read a book, organize something, clean up your house, do something nice for your family, something like that. So thanks again for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye. Oh, and I forgot to show my t-shirt. I'm wearing Toxic Maximalist today. I got this at the Breaking Bitcoin convention in Amsterdam. So very cool. Until next time, bye-bye.